What's the main message of this video? It will be kind of learning curve for all of people that want to transition from videography to DPing or to gaffering or to kind of sort of lighting on the big production or mid-production variety. Have 50 different variety of the light schemes, plus if you go in back and watch the 25 cinematic schemes, it would be 75 different variety of approaches in total that you can learn from it. I hope you will enjoy it. If you do, please like, subscribe, and more comments. Also, share this video with your friends. I'll appreciate that. It's my second or third music video, and let's break down this lighting right here. In terms of background, we have 60 by 60 softbox, one and another one here, pointed towards the screen and illuminated nicely and clean. Second thing, a person here standing like that and holding tripod, and on the end of this tripod I have small LED panel right there, and this one kind of focus on the main character right here, and we already have neg feel and all of this kind of creating contrast around. Let's take a look at this one and break it down in the motion variety of the things. As you can see, bar scene, interesting. I just follow the character, we sit down, focus on a drink, then focus on her, then 360 thing, and all of this kind of scenario. Pretty dynamic, short commercial, and how I did this in terms of lighting in general. Obviously lighting through the window. We had one window with their outside 1200D without any diffusion, which is a little bit not ideal situation, but moving forward we had a stereotyping tubes, couple of them put on the seats, some of them was under bartender table. What was in my mind there is just how we can enhance this location and add some spice to the things, also haze, also make it a little bit, I would say, just not super 100% realistic in terms of natural cinematic filmic approach. It's more like a high-key commercial, or I would say moody commercial with some colorful and express lighting scenarios. Also, as you can see, the main drink here just was lit by spotlight exclusively on the drink bottle, and when we rotate the thing you also see the spotlight on this drink, because the drink was basically the main character of this commercial, and I kind of sacrificed that in terms of key and just basic lighting on the people, because all this stuff we shot in the one take, most of them, yeah, in terms of 360 it was cut there. When I go into the drink, then she just take the drink, I go to her a little bit, and as you can see, it's not ideal lighting on her because it's mixing with the outside window 1200D, and we put another F22c above the table to kind of enhance the table stuff. But I would say we probably can easily cut the light above and go with 1200D with small diffusion up front. I would say opal would be nice to just take the edge off a little bit, and that's kind of process. There's just a haze, tubes, and 1200 outside, bar scene, more movement stuff, more interesting scenarios, and how we did 360. We just merged couple tables and set up the camera on the gimbal, and I just inside the tables just to rotate the gimbal 360. The basic rule when you're going outside and try to lighting scene with the real sun, you mostly, not every time, yeah, but mostly try to find backlighting, and I just put them backlit and already win the situation. Now we even go more further and put them inside the kind of wood structured with roof on top, and that's even more complicated because obviously didn't have any bounce, didn't have anything around the kind of additional light source, HMI, or all of this kind of. And if I just turn around the scene, have just the front lead things, it's gonna be bad. And that's kind of low budget, easy peasy approach to kind of handle it exterior things. And let's back to another shooting day in the theater, and when the camera goes back we have kind of dynamic lighting on the screen. And as I mentioned before, in theater it's nice to have all around 360 neg, because if you just blasting the light to some object in the scene or a ceiling or nearby your kind of white walls, then lighting would be bouncing around, and that's tough to control. We have just a screen up front, and we're blasting lighting into it with dynamic circle gobo thing, and our interesting contrast ratio from the lighting to the dark has a clean shadows, all of this kind of juice there, and that's beauty of shooting in the theater. I would say most cinematic lighting scheme or most powerful thing, at least for me, is playing with shadows and lighting in terms of having silhouette, having people in the darkness, and then they appear with light, then go to the darkness, and that's kind of depth between the completely dark scenario and the kind of image behind them. For example, as you can see here, we have a nice sky and depth and lines, yeah, around them. But the main idea, what I doing here is dancing and kind of feeling emotionally more in terms of mood outside. The focus here is not only on them and the movement of the things, because they in a silhouette you can kind of more divide the movements, and sharpness between the shadows and lighting is more different. And but the main thing here, I would say, is the sky and the big emotional moment between them and this beauty of the nature. And that's kind of beauty of the just jumping into your car, bring the camera, bring the friends, and do something together on a sunset, on a sunrise. First solution for budget nighttime exteriors is just to put the actor in the middle of the streets with basically practical lights around them, as many as you can. Then you can basically enhance your sensor with more lighting in terms of basically tracks, basically the cars driving around the streets, also create some ambience and also create some natural feeling of the buildings. I stuck them together like this, both sides, and we have main actor, and we kind of following the main actor, and then actor goes back, and we just kind of goes back in time, you know, same things. But what was a main solution for this one, because we obviously don't have any professional and stunning equipment there in terms of lighting, and also don't have a time to set up anything else because we didn't have any approvals from the government to shoot there. Even the one thing what I had there in terms of lighting, it was my same LED panel, basic LED panel without diffusion, without nothing, just a couple barn doors working from MPF batteries, and we just placed this just more right-sidey, and I follow the person, then back, and we constantly have this panel stand by on a tripod from the right side of the street to kind of create illumination on him. Let's take a look at exterior, another version of sunset-ish scenario. We have some depth like that, center framing, and supposed to be window here. And we're kind of motivating our main key source through that window like this, have a nice split light effect on him. We have a light, have a shadow, have a light, yeah. But we have just small LED panel right here with kind of barn doors and small diffusion frame on top of it to make sure we have slightly more kind of softer light. But in general, it's pretty dramatic, pretty, I would say, low-key scenario when I just want to have kind of this situation when he has a split, not completely wrap around, not just a Rembrandt thing, not that. It's just a split one, and all of the lines goes into the him basically, and we have simple and same time effective image in terms of immersive to the story, and not just having bunch of tracks, bunch of other things, because he's supposed to be lonely in this situation, and all of the empty walls here also kind of attach him to this situation with the empty and broken family around. And as you can see, we have some food on the table but no people. Not all the time you have to have like a backlight or something like that, especially in the modern cinematography. If you just keep attention on the lighting nowadays, how they did this, like a Netflix shows, all of stuff, most of them kind of, because of the cutting corners, because of the productions start to be more fast, go with more natural approach, throw light through the windows and a bunch of cracks around, and that's all. And if we need to rig something, yeah, emphasize the prag. For example, if I have a prag here, and obviously we have to have kind of edge on him, and then we can put the combo stand, put the arm here, and kind of tube under like that, and create some kind of edge and enhance the lighting from the prag. Next thing I would say is more even simple and kind of more cinematic, filmic approach to the thing. Just go down a little bit low key scenario, but in terms of depth and camera, here we have kind of high angle thing when I'm just looking at him towards the mirror, and also we have him here, but the lighting goes from the door. Yeah, as you can see, that it's just a slightly punch, and we have this nice hard slash in the bathroom. But it's not enough, because if you just blast in small like that, small slash here, and it will be bouncing a little bit to kind of bring up exposure in the room. But the main thing I would say I'd like to have is kind of sodium vapor lamp there, or illusion of that lamp. Mostly illusion. For this situation I just grab small LED panel like RGB, some like a brick small thing, and kind of bounce from the ceiling to have on him a little bit. And also all of these walls around, yeah, they had a color like more green sodium vapor, more like a, like just a grungy and kind of sick feeling. Him standing in this bathroom with some small splash. And what about this one? Also center framing, as you can see, and we're kind of framing him into the window. Also kind of method to emphasize the feeling through the space, feeling through the emotion about the past or something like that. Just a framing person against the window, and also create like a frame into the frame. He kind of stops here, yeah, and all of this space is just empty life, cloudy, gloomy, and ugly weather behind him. And how we can basically produce something nice and see the face and the kind of small contrast on him. And basically what I thought back there is just, okay, we can play two ways. We can play just motivation from the back ambient. It's just a warm, just not warm, it's just a cold ambient goes into the room, bouncing around and create some wrap around the face, yeah. But in reality it can be just a silhouette, just without any volume here. When we need to have the artist basically do the job, yeah, just a scene, then we need to have kind of wrap around and stuff. And I decided, okay, it was 600D, I believe, 600D, and big diffusion frame in front of it, and then we kind of have this nice wrap around. Let's take a look at this specific location. It's kind of seems like an airplane, but it's not, because this one was in a box, which is a big metal container, and they build this thing inside this container. All of this LED windows we have them on the one side and another side, and also under the section we also have some lighting called green, magenta, and all of this kind of not quite nice lighting scenarios. And here obviously I can't put any lighting outside to kind of create a couple of the lighting splashes towards them, yeah, create the nice sun punch with hard lighting from the one side, and here kind of more in terms of if you're in space flying around, yeah, you have nice punch from the sun. Usually if you're flying on basically every single airlines in the world, you know, you have two windows, two sides or windows. One window usually hits with the sun, and another one usually is just a fill light with a sky bounce, yeah, just a blue sky bounce. And you can put here a couple at 60s sky panels on a blue mode through the magic cloth or something like that, and create here on him just a more bluish, kind of more dark bluish bounce if you want to replicate the real flying scenario. But this one was completely terrible and horrible situation because we didn't have any ability to put the light outside or even inside to kind of bounce things around and create the thing, because obviously the right side was white, left side was white, and everything was kind of like that. The big lesson for you all: do location scouting and do your prep more and more. Sometimes in your career you can have this opportunity to be able to light things, everything, have a budget, have a things, and etc. But most of the time, if you're doing some indie short films, something music video, cheap things, sometimes you can have this kind of scenario. And we have our sun hitting him right here. If I go back, as you can see, it's just age. And let's imagine me with my skill sets now, what I can do about the shot differently. It's basically the setup bounce, sun hitting the bounce a little bit, just a side hitting the bounce, yeah, and have a more exposure on his face and kind of continue wrapping his face around. Or different variety of the stuff, we have the sun, then we can even put the kind of 4x or 8x frame here and blasting the light through it. Backlight one and another one. And second thing, what we have here is just a tremendous amount of haze. It was the same event, kind of festival spotlight as the previous different videos what I had before. Reality of shooting interviews in some big spaces with big windows, and also with a Blackmagic 4K pocket. The problem of the Blackmagic is just a shorter dynamic range compared with other cameras like a Sony, Arri, and etc. And what's the main thing is like a holding highlights in right range and be able to kind of compromise with the amount of lighting inside to kind of create wrap around the face nice and smooth. I had 8x frame with diffusion cloth half grid. We did 200D, another 200D, 300D, 3 light sources just blasting through this frame. We have this nice soft light on him as well. Backlight or kind of age, and this one we did with 300X and Fresnel 2X, like here, standing on stand and kind of blasting into his backside of the character. In terms of neg, I have also big 8x neg right here to kind of create or get rid of bounce around, because as you can see the ceiling and the walls a little bit grayish white color, and all of the light coming from these windows just bouncing around as a hell, you know, and you need to control that because of different sources like a 200D, two of them, 300D, and all of them just kind of reading the temperature differently and produce just slightly different in terms of color, and then we blasting them through the half grid. Half grid also makes light more warm and kind of shifting temperature towards more warmish thing, and that's why we here have just messed with the tonality on a face. And obviously on a color grading you can get rid of it, but still. And what we basically have here is kind of trees, like a small trail here. Yeah, looks like that. This is in the middle of the day, as you can say, in terms of we have kind of small sun goes through the clouds. It's just a cloudy weather, then sun come back, then cloudy weather, and just a play around with that. Yeah, we did this one in the middle of the cloudy and sun show up, but because we used for that just a kind of smoke grenade or something like that, we just throw this thing, blow up, and we had this kind of smoke god rays, would be say like this. Yeah, and here as you can see, it allows us to have the kind of depth of action movie scene. Maybe it's too much on this side. I don't remember it's a real smoke grenade or it's just a fake smoke thing, but the result is obviously that's a kind of more action movie storytelling or horror thing, or it's a real deal thing, because without a smoke it looks like a little bit green trees around, you know, just not enough depth to the thing. Also, plus if you don't have a sun, don't have this shadow light scenarios, and pretty gloomy weather also turns your image to the more flat side, and the kind of smoke or haze can create some splashes around this stuff and create some depth. In this garage scene we have two windows right here, as you can see, and both of them had a light. It's 2K Fresnel close to the windows because we kind of want to replicate sunlight. Floppy behind to kind of create isolated windows kind of approach, and we don't want to have anything behind the window seen to the camera. Create the god rays from the window, and basically we have a floppy here set up like that. On the other side there we have area, also Fresnel, just a smaller light, 650 I guess, so just bouncing from the garage door to create kind of bounce on her, and also give us this smooth, nice, soft wraparound to her face. More hard coming from the window, and then you kind of emphasize the wrapping around basically to create all of this level here. Because if we just turn off this area 650 from the bouncing of the garage door, then we will have kind of more split light scenario. I just pull up the wide shot, you can see this even god rays more evenly spread here, and when she's leaning forward towards this window and more close to this window, then we have just even more harsh edge on her. And then when she kind of more is leaning down, yeah, then we kind of loosen our wraparound, because that we have here this light in this corner bouncing from the ceiling, yeah, but it's not enough to kind of cover the whole thing, because obviously I just don't like to have really big light bouncing inside the small room, because we will have to control that more in terms of nag and stuff. And even here I would say I just bring it down in DaVinci Resolve to have the kind of more focus on her as well, because as I said before, the smaller light inside we can obviously control it more. For example, if you don't have any tungsten things or something like that with Fresnel, that can be more narrow on spot things. If we're talking about tungsten, let's move to the another one example with the tungsten approach. So let's start from the close-up. I will explain what's going on here. Is basically window number 1. Then we have a second window down there on the right side, and also we have a third window like here. It's a kitchen table, like kind of dinner scene, and we had there a couple 2Ks tungsten also shooting through this window, and there another one just more righty. We have 600D, I would say, with the gel here or around this kind of thing. We have a Joker 750 shooting through this window as well, with kind of barn doors. And also because we shooting this in the middle of the day, cloudy and ugly weather, it's basically raining outside right now while we're shooting this, and we just create a tent behind the windows. And the limitation was, and the problem obviously, it's you just can't put the light far away from the window and create kind of more realistic approach in terms of how light would be follow from the highlights to the shadow line. And as you can see, this pretty hot thing here. Even I just kind of put the diffusion frame something here, yeah, to kind of cover the harshness of the thing. And obviously I don't have any wraparound additional like for him here, and just a neg right there to create kind of more split shadow. And the one thing what we had here, another one, is just a vertex right there, vertex panel shooting him like that to create more, I would say, backlight. In terms of motivation for that, obviously the window is too far away to get any backlight on him, and that's kind of looks not super realistic, but in terms of depth and kind of experiment, works well for kind of break it down a little bit in terms of light, shadow, it's not nearly perfect, for cinematography aspect for that, and no one will give me like an Oscar nomination for these things. Yeah. And on a wide shot we had these two windows, as you can see, and they almost blow up a little bit because of the situation when we can dim the light much down and we have the light too close to the windows, and that's why this looks a little bit unrealistic right here. But that's the main thing. If you just don't know about the filmmaking industry and cinematography, you just look at this and you're pretty okay with that. Interesting of this location, obviously we have a foreground kind of stairs here, I just down there, and we have nice reflection on the floor. We have some depth there, we have some age on him, and pretty much the windows took the, I would say, maybe 20% of the frame. But obviously if we had opportunity to kind of remove these blinds and have even more nice depth outside, see the trees, see the summer, see the nice sunset coming through the windows, yeah, obviously it will be absolutely amazing. But in these circumstances, when we just have rain outside, have to cover the window and all of the scenarios, you just have to come up with solution and understand how you can approach the weather or how you can just change thing on a go. Let's take a look on this one. This is the first time when I try to replicate day to night effect. When sun was covered by clouds, we just go there and simply create some motivation from the building, from obviously put some lights inside, put some lights on the tree, yeah, to be able to motivate it, this key light, and basically rim on her from this side. Here we basically have a 2K Fresnel punch into this way without any diffusion, I guess just a clean one. And on him I have kind of fake moonlight, kind of more harsh scenario from this direction, and also this is vortex with blue kind of cyan color and hitting him a little bit. And also we have some light under the garage door to kind of create more depth, emphasize the things. But kind of effective. I would say I just turn off this light and probably will be more nicer in terms of thing. And maybe this thing, just put the frame, just half grid something to kind of cut this edge and make it a little bit more smooth. Another example of any view setup, and if you have this kind of location, then you already win the game, because as you can see, you have your proc, you have your windows also, you can motivate from windows. And if you don't want to do this, okay, this proc can be motivation for that. And obviously the practical light should be more brighter than the face of the character. And as you can see, bcam was here and we're facing him from shadow side, and then we will see the window here, and that's kind of our motivation additional for viewer to kind of see, okay, we have a prac and plus we have a window, at least half of the window. Let's talking about exterior shots with some spice in it. We had our sun on the left right there, and it's pretty not super usual kind of timing to shooting things, because it was in the middle of the day. It means a little bit less interesting color, hard shadows, and all of this kind of stuff, bouncing light, and obviously light above. It's not super nice thing to have, and in terms of visuals, it's gonna be a little bit flat. In this scenario, if you look at this footage, and here you will have the hard light, then it kind of a little bit too harsh to your eye to kind of understand or kind of focus the things, and that's why we just a little bit cheat the situation, putting the big 8 by full grid diffusion from the left side of the camera. But we put this diffusion only on this character and kind of soften things out to her, and then leave it how it is for those two girls. And also it breaks some things apart in terms of shadow and light, shadow and light. And this is just a simple trick how you can soft things out on the exterior, you know, because the thing is, not always you want to have this kind of soft look on the character if you're shooting at the sunny day, all of this kind of scenario. But in the commercial, often just request from the client having some nice wraparound or more high key or less shadow or more smooth transition between highlights to the shadows, yeah. And if you just shooting in the middle of the day with hard sun, without any cloudy situation, just punching through the thing, then you have to understand how to control the light, how to diffuse the light, and what kind of tools you can get to be able to do this thing correctly. Another simple example of exterior smooth work is a dish shot. From the first glance, it seems like a simple shot, easy to do, nothing special here, just natural lighting, and that's all. Sometimes you can get something like this in real nature with like a good camera dynamic range and stuff, but in the reality, what we have here, big 12 by 12 diffusion above him. It's a half or full grid cloth, and as you can see, this edge around his body from the sun, we make it more smooth because of our diffusion big 12 by above him. But we didn't want to have a shadow here, and that's why I put another 8 by, just the ultra bounce, to make sure we can have just right amount of exposure on his face. And that's how we did this shot. And yes, in reality, kind of more cinematic approach, I would say, let's kill the bounce and let's put the 20 by 20 neg behind me, kind of create the shadow right here, yeah. Or we can leave the bounce here and also put the neg behind me to increase the contrast level on his shadow side. But in terms of work with clients and specific requests. That's how it was being made in terms of sell it to the client like that, yeah. Another version of exterior with some depth if you want, that's kind of shot. And same, we in the middle of the day we have to have clean sky behind us and just a simple center framing. And what we have, additional just light coming from the behind him, just a kicking above, yeah. And we also smooth this light by big 12 by behind him with diffusion. And from this side we have 8 by ultra bounce to give the level on this side, yeah, to kind of have this nice thing. And I believe I had floppy or 8 by solid neg right here to increase the contrast. Here we have nice composition, like a leading lights, we have front and center framing of that, and also beautiful clouds behind with some depth. That's all this, it's nature. All the cloudy, it was a kind of rainy, cloudy, then sunny day same time. And obviously we backlit them shooting like this, and we kind of have nice harsh edge on them. And here we have even just kind of kick on her as well. And this position is ideal for kind of cinematic approach when we have this rim and then we have almost completely shadow here. We don't have any kind of bounce, we don't need it, because this one should be more authentic as possible and natural in terms of, even on her, if we just bouncing light from this direction on her, it would be a little bit unnatural situation, yeah, compares with previous commercials that requires to have more like a less shadow, more in terms of high key, more level on the face and stuff. And here it's a little bit opposite direction, it's a little bit more natural approach with some shadows and stuff. And as you can see, the weather is approaching nicely us to kind of have this interesting depth. As you can see, this shadow seems like light come above, and yes, this is just here we have a stand, boom arm, and on this boom I have Amaran F22c with pancake and skirt to be able to control the light. And we kind of have this just more toppy on them, plus to get rid of kind of raccoon eyes situation, I just move this light towards the camera a little bit and tilt it, play with that. Also, as you can see, the shadows a little bit here because we just have big solid on the right side of the camera to create additional contrast here, to get rid of any lighting spilling, bouncing around, to kind of control the thing, because all of this apartment is pretty white walls around. And the problem is, every time when you just put the light and white walls around, bouncing and create additional kind of fill light, we don't need it. And I just like to control the things using neg fill as much as possible. Here we have B7C, 3 of them, aperture controllable, nice warm kind of. This prog would be motivation for all of this lighting. And for backlight I have just a 300x with Fresnel bouncing from the ceiling in this section to make sure we don't get this bounce too much on them, and we just have just slightly rim on him from this bounce. If you want to grade it after nicely, then the main rule is that you should put the color in your video first. Framing, camera movement and stuff, okay, it's more simple. Here is static, or I just moving forward, backward. And obviously we need to control the light, need to have some spotlight on it, and also movable light. And that's why I choose the more simple approach in terms of more like a event related lighting here. Most of the light, yeah, behind the thing, all of this spotlights, I would say 6 of them here in a row, here 6 in a row, and here 4 in a row, 4, like a 8 here, and 8 same behind this interesting thing. Yeah, the main lighting coming from above, stereotyping tubes there, and we kind of cover this by a small skirt to get rid of spilling around, because the main idea here, it was black out this thing. Simple thing, but also big one, because you need to kind of fill this ring with lighting. Yeah, also should be a little bit soft, but not too much soft also. Yeah, and kind of be in the zone. And in terms of this guy, we have him with a hat like that, and obviously sometimes when he goes into the camera, this top down lighting was not enough for him to have a nice kind of level on his face, and then we using just a bounce board from one side when he's walking into the camera, and kind of more create some bounce on the other side, then just a little bit nag here, and then we will have our contrast. In terms of spotlights in Gobo thing, I used my favorite event light with all of this. As you can see here, it creates more nice patterns, shadows and stuff, like just the pockets of light right there. And it was same Gobo had for events, concerts that I used in my first music video back in the days. Let's take a look at this one, and I will explain why I don't like this and what you need to understand in terms of doing things right or doing things wrong. It's obviously a little bit more kind of gray area, yeah, in terms of your taste or your client taste or whatever you kind of want to do with that. But I give you a couple things to think about. What about this composition, lighting? What do you like about that? What are you not liking about that? Depth, lines everywhere, lines, window. We have our motivation light, kind of, yeah. Some shapes on a kitchen cabinet. A lot of props, interesting matching colors. Kind of great image in the first glance. But as you can see, we are not on the shadow side right now. Shadow side would be here. The camera should be here. And then we will facing them on the other corner with two windows, and camera will be from the shadow side. Then we will have our key thing, and also we will have our backlighting from the one, like a first window would be backlit her, and even her a little bit. And then another window should be motivation for this wraparound there, yeah. And obviously I had a neg here to kind of create the shadow, even more contrast ratio here, but I just later I realized, okay, if we just switch the camera to the other side completely, it will be more simple. And for example, in terms of light, we had 600D here, 600D through the window, another one there, also 1200D shooting through the window exactly to create the shadow, and 600D shooting to her create edge light. But inside I had the F22c as well to kind of wrap around the faces. But now I just look at this and say, oh, okay, we just need to kill the F22c and maybe just go with two 600Ds, just kind of have this thing here, and that's all. And here would be completely more shadow situation, yeah. But I would say ideal version, we're just using same amount of things, just kill the 1200, and we move towards the shadow side completely and have different perspective of the situation. And that's kind of learning curve that you also have to get from your practical work. You did location scouting, you did tech scout and stuff, and also you missed something. And that's kind of, even you had this prep, even all of this stuff goes maximum smoothly as you can, also the amount of error can be there in terms of direction, or some situation we just discussed this shot and then we come up with idea and then we forgot this idea on the set when the pressure is high, the stake is also high, and etc. Because the easiest way that you can framing thing, lighting thing, it's when you just on your own, you know, and you're doing this for exposure, or you're doing this for your situation, kind of no client behind. But if the client behind and pressure on set and stuff, and mistakes can be also in place. And make sure that you did your homework after every single shoot day, every single project that requires you to get feedback from your work, and look at this not in terms of wow, that's a cool project, but in terms of kind of how I can be better and 5%, 10% better next time. What I should do with my like a checklist, shot sizes, shot list, all of these kind of things that um, I need to have. Or if you are going to the location scout and you see this frame, that's a pretty beautiful thing, and you just didn't expect that director will change things on a go, and then your framing in this situation would be completely different and might be disappointed a little bit. And you have to have different version of things in terms of if the crew, or if the lighting is will shut down immediately, or director has a different idea in terms of the situation. You have to kind of adapt and find the solution right away to be able to produce nice high end quality work. Another commercial, as you can see, we have some lines here, kind of light dark scenario, light dark light scenario, and the main source is here, like a kind of 1200D through the some half grid cloth to create this thing, and the 1200D allows us to have bounce on the other side to create all of the key on him. On the other hand, if we will approaching this one as a film thing, yeah, then we all obviously get rid of the artificial light here, and kind of will bounce in the ambient on his face, but it will be just subtle, just a little bit, yeah, and then we will go from there. But mainly here, because of this commercial, because this should pop out from the screen, should be a little bit interesting and more, I would say, in some words, artificial sometimes, yeah, commercial, and all of this bouncing and diffusion and big stuff when you put there to kind of enhance the color, skin, levels, all of this kind of scenario. We have basic central composition, pretty, I would say, not super depth, yeah. We have some foreground a little bit, but what we had there is just a rain right there. And as you can see, the edge on the car have some lights behind that allows us to actually see the rain, because if you want to see the rain in your scene in terms of nice lighting on the rain, then you have to set up the light. Obviously, artificial light standing here on Mombo Combo stand, it was 1200D with bigger reflector, and we kind of facing this one without any diffusion, straight raw to the backlighting him and also car. And just because we had a Mombo Combo stand and set up this one there, and our lighting just hitting the half of the car, and we need another lighting hitting from this side to be able to have full coverage for this car. And then we set up another light, it was 600D with Fresnel on the stand right there, and shooting like that, yeah, to kind of cover this situation. Let's dive into the fashion just a little bit. We had the studio shooting, just flat wall, and how to basically enhance the possibility of depth on the wall. I decided to bring the M18, I would say, M18 here, with barn doors and the Gobo 4x, or just a small flag with sections that creates and brings apart the lighting that we blasting through it, and that allows me to have this kind of depth on the background, obviously with just a little bit softness, because if we just go with just a hard appears on him, basically like here we have a spotlight that hitting him just more harsh, yeah. Because the most fashion those days and even today, some project has a difference between the more commercial high key styling thing and the fashion thing has a big advantage and big promotion for hard light, yeah. And it was it, we just put the spotlight on him with some effects that just like a photography flash on the face, and that kind of interesting scenario when he's moved, his jacket, kind of dynamic lighting, just a little bit, yeah. Let's take a look at this one. What do we have here? Basic motivation for the lighting or for the ambient. It's window. Behind the window I have 600D blasting through it with some full grid cloth on top of it, and it creates some edge on her, just a touch. From the other side right here I have F22c plus Nanlite Power Slim 2x1 panel, and that's kind of merged them together with the muslin, unbleached muslin cloth, I would say, to create nice wrap round on her face, and that allows me to have kind of more shadow, like a light shadow, nice roll off on her face. Not like a super soft, but in terms of more attractive version of the softness that I especially likes in this situation. And as you can see, we don't have any additional spill on her. That's good because all the lighting from this window seems like more cloudy or more soft, yeah. And here I would say, yeah, ideally have a Prague light right here with some warm thing will help some break down this area a little bit more. But in terms of overall look, it's pretty nice, pretty like a neutral. It's not super hypey, super saturated. It's balanced with nice thing. Have some table, Prague, window, yeah, kind of corner side. Then here we have kind of flat wall, and I decided to put the Prague here to kind of break things into some like a light pockets everywhere, and we control them precisely. But at the same time I would like to have nice key on them 5600, simple as that, not just replicate warm temperature from the Prague. But obviously here we have kind of rim backlight, and this one's supposed to come from this Prague, but we rig actually big just a combo on the boom arm, and this was Nanlite Power Slim 2x1 panel with grid on it, and we kind of create this rim on them. And obviously this Prague should be more bright, that allows us to have more kind of believable image. And the main key light was F22c, floppy this side to get rid of spill, and on the front of it I had artificial silk 8x, as you can see, and even here we have kind of more harsh key on her and more soft on him. Also creates more kind of depth or differences between, because this shot pretty flat in terms of like we don't have any lighting custom from this side to create some shadows, patterns, and on a wall and sunny day or something like that, yeah. Be more realistic in terms of we had this shot with rain, like a guy running around, and then we cut to this shot, and this shot supposed to fit the mood of the scene for this commercial, and that's why it looks a little bit more on the cold side instead of doing just a warm Prague motivation with some small cold thing here. And I would say it works just fine for this typical scenario. It was on a second floor, and what's the problem of that? It's obviously you need to have some lift or big stands and big lights kind of tricky situation in terms of wind and safety. And I decided to do it differently because like we shooting this during the day, we didn't have the sun like a kind of punching through the window, and we need to replicate that, but in some different fashion. Because the main thing here, if we just put the big source nearby window and blasting into the room, then this source will be bouncing everywhere and we will have tremendous amount of field light everywhere, and you have to control it twice as much. And solution for that is simple, using mirrors and small different size of mirrors same time to kind of bounce in one big source from it. As you can see here, we have splash on her, slash here, kind of small pockets of light, and this one, and also practical light B7C there, couple mirrors, big 1200D with low intensifier there, standing on the ground and kind of bouncing from these small mirrors. Simple as that. And also we controlling the ambient because we just have small 1x1, 3 of them mirrors, and this big source going into each of them, and we kind of manipulated each mirror to have it in the right place where we want to have it, basically. And in this situation with this kind of method, we had kind of interesting light pockets everywhere, and also we keep the contrast level in the nice thing, because obviously in the other side of the room I had a 8x solid to kind of cut the bounce for safety and create kind of this shadow effect on her. And for additional source right here to level up her face just slightly, I had F22c with grid and stuff right there behind, just like out of the frame. And here shadow again, and then lighting pocket again, and here lighting light pocket here, a little bit lighting shadow, you know, and also on her, and all of these things because of the mirrors. In terms of motivation, bunch of sources like that. We have Prague there, Prague here, yeah. Also the window kind of motivation from like a backlighting them, but it's not there because the main idea here it was make cold weather winter thing during the summer, yeah, and we need to block the window behind the thing. We did a tent for that, put the two 600D and 1200D there, and kind of bouncing from the ultra bounce, and then have the full grid to kind of more create kind of just a white ambient into the room, more cold ambient, I would say, yeah. And then in terms of key thing here is just, as you can see, small god rays from the right side, kind of example that we might have a big window there. It's not always about okay where the source is going, like a why the source going from this situation direction and stuff. As you can see, tremendous amount of ambient light coming through the thing, but in reality it was just a little bit cloudy, more like a sunny cloudy day ish, and we had additional lighting that right there behind the frame. We had 1200D to kind of blast in this direction to create on her lighting. If I just, as you can see, nice wrap around on her, and then just a big neg feel right there, lighting everywhere, bouncing around and stuff, how you can control it. And obviously the neck, yeah, here behind the frame we had 12 by solid, and I would say another one 8 by or something like that to create some contrast. And I would say this one was like that, till it down just a little bit, and that allows us to have this contrast right there. This close up, as you can see, also tremendous amount of depth, kind of nice full frame, shallow depth of field, all of this kind of stuff. Foreground, we have our main point of interest, we have character right here, all of these things, And in terms of lighting, we just had 1200D out of the frame blasting towards them, and from this side of the camera, and I believe here as well, we had a couple different variety of neg, and then white neg, white neg, white, just for example 8 by solid, then 6 by ultra bounce, then another 8 by solid to kind of create the neg, then a little bit bounce from the ambient light like a natural sky, and then or another one black one, because the thing is it was really uncontrollable space. It was just a full white and low contrast scenario thing, and we introduced the lighting. Yeah, we have our harsh source, that's the first thing, and then we establish the shadow side and make sure we control the shadows and create some depth. If we look at this just a little bit with more understanding what's going on, as you can see here, the leaves a little bit darker, this one a little bit brighter, and that's not just a lucky day, you know, that's because we had here black thing, here we set up small bounce material there, that's kind of depth because of this situation. And if we just remove all of this stuff, then we will have just an enormous amount of exposure, and all of this stuff would be just a white or green without any texture, depth, and all of this situation, because as you can see the leaves just green thing, yeah, but here it's just a shadow thing a little bit, here more exposure, here difference. In terms of lines, yeah, we have some foreground a little bit, main characters, and lighting. It was completely natural sun right there, just a little bit above the frame, just that the maximum, I would say, dynamic range that you can get from the camera. Just put it in the spot where you don't see the actually sun in the frame. This is ideal situation for us because we still had a nice rim, and here the sun was going down a little bit more towards sunset feeling, yeah, but still we had this nice dynamic range there. Here just a little bit hot, but okay for this situation. Just a little bit depth, layers, and main characters kind of in the shadow zone here, but we still see some details around. It's not completely dark, completely, you know, just a black and white situation. It has some characters, it has some shadow, just a little bit lighting here, shadow, also shadow, lighting right there, also here same, then darkness, some nice slash on the wall art behind, we have some lighting, shadow, just a little bit more light, also as you can see here small god rays, rim light or backlight right there on her, and shadow, yeah, shadow, also lighting, shadow, all this kind of scenario, lighting, shadow, even here lighting a little bit like a shadow lighting, and the frame is packed with the different interesting things in terms of composition wise and lighting, and what we did here, what we used here, I will show you right now. In terms of sources, what we had there, F22c right here through the 4x1/2 diffusion frame, and also just had black bottomer to kind of create the shadow right here, and allows you to put the F22c only on her like this angle, yeah, controlling layering, that's a key for success. There on the Cardellini we set up our small GU light, and this one with Fresnel, small Fresnel from Aputure, was right here, exactly there, and also I would say the backlight hitting just a little bit the canvas here. Background light, as you can see, we had the slash, and it was Aputure 600D through the spotlight, and we create this shadow, and as you can see behind the scene here, pretty nice, pretty good. Composition still, center framing, it's a little bit layering, not too much, and that's why I decided to create kinda teal orange effect, because as you can see, we had here light from above, kinda have, and then slowly going into the shadow thing, and also here. And this light, it was Amaran 22c with the big softbox set up above, gonna create nice focused light on him. Background light was here, Amaran 200D with gel on it, and kind of push from the left towards right, shadow, light, shadow, light, shadow, and all of this kind of situation. And I guess this is interesting looking frame. As you can see, window. It was a main kind of motivation on him in terms of warm light coming to his face. And as you can see, we had kind of more soft on his face and more harsh on his body, because we had two lights right here, just I would say every tungsten 650 and another or 2K or kind of tungsten variety of the Fresnel, and the one of them goes this direction and another one straight through the blinds or kind of diffusion curtains right there on him. And obviously it creates nice shadow on the floor as well, kinda, as you can see, light thing, dark, light, just a little bit dark here, light, dark, also just shadow, light, kind of shape as well. And if we look at this tree right here, we have some interesting procs, but behind the tree we had our Aputure 600D plus Joker 750, I would say, to having the back light on him hitting the behind the character. And motivation for that, it was basically okay, it's street lamps or neighbor house lamps, whatever, but still to create more interesting shadow on this wall as well, because when you had a light behind a tree, obviously with nice hard lighting through the trees, you can get this kind of shadows right here from the tree. And also to even enhance this scenario right there, and if we look at the bicycles itself, you have kind of lighting dark scenario. And where is this light coming from? Absolutely from the bottom. Okay, here you have this kind of illumination, but on this one we don't have any. And there also tube there, like a one tube there, another one here, and create illumination. And big, enormous, there's a huge windows behind. That's a problem usually. And as you can see, we cannot just move him more towards the different side of room, because this room is pretty small, yeah? And we have to position him against the windows, and that's kind of plus in terms of we see all of this nice architecture here, pretty goddamn nice, yeah, kind of downtown scenario. And okay, I give you a couple seconds to figure out how we did this scenario, because the main thing here, you see the camera, there's a camera right there, yeah, but where is the light? Yeah, usually if you put this scenario in that kind of thing and you just in the run and gun situation, and you put the softbox here, and then you will get this softbox right here, you know, just a massive reflection of the softbox just right there. But here, clean, nice windows, nice downtown, you know, bouncing light, shadows, light, basic scenario, split lighting almost, yeah. Okay, that's not super realistic one, because ideally if the sun was there and hitting him here, then we have to have just a rim on him, yeah, and then just a shadow. But in this situation also we had white table to bounce from, we had white ceiling above to bounce from, and I kind of choose the white ceiling and bring my just Amaran on reflector 200D and bouncing from the ceiling in front of him and position this like that. Also just put the, I would say, put some black material on a reflector to be able to bounce just slightly, not the big thing to enhance the whole ambient in the room, just a touch, just a bit. And on this side put the neg obviously out of the frame to create more shadow like that. This one was pretty simple. It's just a one light source, and I believe it was small Aputure MC, just a previous like a first generation of Aputure small lighting there, and I position it right here on a small stand with kinda 2x2 half grid diffusion cloth. All of these things, this one and this one, mirrors, and the product standing in the center, and lighting goes right here and create kind of bounce situation on the product because of this small lighting with the kind of 2x2 diffusion thing. And as you can see, this was a main key for the product, but still without any additional source we also had the rim light behind, and that's the kind of power of the mirrors right here. When you're dealing with high key commercial, how you can approach this kind of scenario? Butterfly lighting. What I mean by that, this is simple. Have big source above, but not just above like that, above more here, yeah, on the front of her, to get rid of raccoon eyes, because if we just put the light like that, then you will have raccoon eyes here. And we just put the main source with maximum soft as possible right here above, and the bounce here also not like that, not just a bounce under the neck, and bounce here just to create the wrap. If you have, imagine you have the wrap around from this side like this, then you put the more harsh light or soft light another one, and then just a little bit another one, or just a big source to wrap around the things. And here kind of same scenario, but just in this perspective, when you had your lighting like that too on her, and then you will have these results when the main key will be determining the shadow line, and then we just up the shadow level with the bounce board. On top of it I put the floppy from the both sides of her to enhance the shadow, yeah. Then I took two Astera Titan tubes and put there behind or in the middle of the floppy, out of the frame obviously, with the kind of amber temperature, kind of warm thing, and the Astera Titan hits her kind of backlit scenario. And as you can see, if I go in more close to her, just clean the frame for now. When I go close to her, you can see this kind of interesting color on her cheek right here. And this is not about where you're motivating your sources and stuff, it's just a more fashion related approach to enhance things. And obviously background, I had big M18, I would say area M18, open flood, and just to paint our background as much as possible. Let's imagine we have just a big soft box just hitting her from almost the front of the camera, just a little bit right side. As you can see here, we still has a nice like a shadow thing. As you can see, the background absolutely flat in terms of lighting, because as I mentioned earlier, the thing is we had just a big soft box with cloudy thing above, and behind the camera from this side, for example, yeah, we had the sun just open, just small, I would say small barn doors, yeah, from the sun, and we just hit her immediately. Couple minutes and sun goes down a little bit with all of the shadows and cloudy things, yeah. And we just have this open window when we had this kind of light on her, and then that's all. But ideally have some sort of shapes on the background as well. It wasn't perfectly planned on the sun and stuff, it's just a regular weather in the, I would say, mountain scenario in the middle of the season. Still, the main idea here is just try to play with natural light and don't be afraid to use almost a front lit thing, because for this typical scenario she just pop out from the screen obviously nicely, yeah, and we still had some interest on the background because it's a huge mountain things and we kind of uphill on the location, and that's pretty interesting looking image for me as well. Let's talk about scenario when you have 100% control of the all things, and start with this beautiful studio where we just build the thing from scratch. On her face we didn't have any kind of additional contrast like a Rembrandt thing, yeah, additional lighting not going here, it just never happened there. Instead of put additional light like for example F22c right here on her face and can create additional contrast like light thing dark thing, yeah, I set up 4x4 bounce board on this side of the face and kind of bring some level from the window, just for example light travel into the bounce and just slightly brings up her exposure on the right side of the face. Main window has a 1K Fresnel area, all of this level from this source. Another source from the window goes into the wall and creates this thing, because this is it was Aputure old one like a 120D with gel with spotlight mount and blasting into this nice wall, having gobo window shape there as well. Another level kind of fill light goes from above. It was Godak's light mat. We kind of bounce it from the foam board, as you can see here on the behind the scene, and the 4x bounce board was from the right side of her face and camera was left side of that, and we have this kind of interesting footage. Let's talking about product shots just a bit, and what we have in terms of lighting right here is kind of simple. As you can see, this is warm LED panel from this direction, I would say, and here I have small, just a LED brick with RGB possibilities, more close to the glass to have all of this depth right there. And obviously this was on a bartender table behind all of this stuff. We just, because I shot this on a really tight lens version to make this cocktail just big enough to audience to kind of wrap around the things, that's why background is looking just nothing there. Mainly it was one LED panel that obviously just a little bit diffused and goes into like a back lead a little bit and then side kick a bit, and the main color I would say in all of this nice things around kind of cyan stuff, it was just a little LED brick with cyan color on it and punching from the side, from just like that toppy side, variety of the things. What I hate the most when I need to set up both sides lighting to the one person. What I mean by that, have her face and we have light here and here, like a double key scenario, which is unrealistic. It's number one. Sometimes if you have some sort of situation you can have it, but in terms of shadow and line of the things, for example, if you set up the main key from the right side and here you can have a shadow thing and Rembrandt, yeah, okay, and kind of logistically good thing to have. Also nice harsh light on her hair, and then come to the key, then come to the shadow, then come to the light from the another source right here or something like that. It will be typical scenario of the thing, but as you can see here I have kind of different situation, and you might see this in her eyes because this light just coming from this direction her, with kind of cyan temperature, and this one up here coming on her just on the one part of the face, and then another harsh source coming exclusively on her hair. Yeah, and obviously this one bouncing around and create on this wide head another splash of the color. What's the advantage, disadvantage of this kind of approach when you have two lights on one person? Most of the time it looks a little bit out of the place in terms of more, I would say, more television approach, more TV kind of style of the lighting, when they just put the person in below the nowhere and blasting him with lighting both sides. Yeah, almost lose the shadow, like a lighting direction of the things, and what's the real, what's not, what's going on here. Yeah, and if you look at the close to the thing, this basically shadow. Yeah, and that's kind of not nice situation. What I can do differently here, or what I can suggest if you want to have kind of differentiation between the color, both sides of the face and stuff, it's just to have a main key one temperature right here with Rembrandt thing. Yeah, then set up on a boom something with different temperature as a backlight, a little bit hidden from here, for example. Yeah, and maybe additionally have another thing on the background with also different color, if you want to have this kind of colorful palette of the situation. I suggest you to think twice before you put the two big, small, as matter sources on the one actor face. Tricky to make it realistic, cinematic, and all of this kind of stuff. But maybe it's just my approach to things. I just want to have at least one main source and then work from that, motivation obviously and stuff. But here I did this differently. You can like it or not, but it's kind of gray area here to play with this kind of dimension.